In its third day, with delegates coming together in an effort to enhance global conservation. Under discussion is the survival of species from rhinos, lions and elephants to pangolins and the African grey parrot. Our reporter Tumaole Mohlaoli is at the conference and he brings us more. Tumaole, very good afternoon to you. Some difficult issues to be discussed, especially around matters affecting trade in ivory.
Well, thank you, Natasha. And as can be expected, perhaps a bit cynically for me to say in that fashion, the discussions here in the main plenary at the Cites COP17 has been around the issue of illicit trade, or trade rather, in endangered species, shark, of course, as well as elephant and rhino being the biggest issues on the agenda here and being debated. Of course, we would know that the East is the biggest consumer of both those particular endangered species, being, of course, shark fin, as well as other marine life like stingray, and then, of course, the tusks as well as the horns from the elephant and the rhino. They've been going back and forth, and the deliberations have been centering around the issue of legalizing trade in the rhino stockpile horns as well as the elephant tusks, particularly when countries within the SADC region. We know that SADC itself is quite divided over what to do in terms of entering the debate as to whether to legalize the trade in stockpiles that have already been gathered. South Africa having one of the biggest stockpiles in the region, if not continentally. And the argument is that if these stockpiles are not legalized and trade is not regulated, it will still continue anyway. We know that as of current estimates and some of the discussions and submissions that have been made in these commissions, at the rate of the current culling of elephants and rhino, the elephant populations should be decimated within the next 50 years. So really showing the seriousness of the issue, which is why countries like South Africa are entering the debate and saying, let us talk about this and let us see what we can do, because it is happening anyway. And with the stockpiles that are currently being held by governments, if trade is legalized and regulated, then of course the demand will also be reduced. Some conservationists are saying that this argument is null and void, because if you legalize trade and you open up the market, then demand will only increase, particularly from the East. So submissions being made from both sides, with countries from the East, including Japan, making their particular arguments and also making the recommendations that they feel need to be tabled to say that this argument should not be one-sided and seen as they are being the transgressors, because the markets go all over the world. So this is what has really been happening behind closed doors here. And as I speak to you now, one of the commissions has just adjourned, and now the speakers and the delegates will go and break off into various committee rooms. Of particular interest is the issue of sharks and rays, and one of the committees is going to talk about the road to legalizing the issue, or the road to trying to find a sustainable solution, because it's not only the elephant and of course the rhino that are being decimated. Our fish economies and our fish resources, our ocean resources, are also under threat. So this is what has been happening today here at the Cites COP17, and we are waiting to find out if there will be any outcomes. Of course, various governments and various states have their own agendas, own ways of viewing things, and these discussions are really supposed to try to find a uniform and agreement whereby they can then operate. But with the various points of view, it's still a long way to go before they can meet each other, and we'll wait to see which argument will then come and be adopted, which arguments will win the day. With that, respect to you in the studio.
Very much so. A lot of proposals on the agenda up for debate there at the 17th Cites or COP17 conference underway in Sant.